This is Phil Rosebrook, partner at Business Mentors, and you are listening to Restoration Edge. Welcome to the Restoration Edge, the people and products behind smarter restoration. This is a real fantastic product. It's product and service that can help restorers, especially as we get into the dry season around North America. And so we're going to talk today with Sebastien Burkhardt from Clore and Steve Slepcevic with Strategic Response Partners. So what I would like to do is, first of all, I'm gonna turn it over to Sebastien. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Give me just a quick high-level introduction of who you are, and then tell me a little bit just about Clore from a real high level. We'll get into some of the details here in a little bit, and then we'll do the same thing with Steve just right after that. So
my name is Sebastien Burkhardt. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Clore, and I've seen wildfires my entire life growing up in California and seen them as a bigger thing causing more and more damage every year. And that's why I created Clore. We make non-toxic fire retardants that you can spray on anything flammable around a property, and it gives a property a stronger chance of surviving a wildfire.
Fantastic. Wow. This is going to be exciting just getting into that. Steve, tell me about yourself, your company, high level, and tell me about your background and then your connection here with Clore.
Yeah, 35 plus years in the disaster response, management, restoration, adjusting world, as you know. SRP has a separate private firefighting division. And it's something that, growing up in Southern California, it's something that we live with all the time. And so just a lot of exposure on it. And after actions, lessons learned, having family that lives in Malibu, Agoura Hills, Westlake, and all the fire-prone areas. I live in San Diego these days, again, in a wildland brush area. And more recently, saved a bunch of structures during the LA fires with our program.
Wow. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a little bit about the product, about kind of give me some background on this. So then we'll go into application, and then we'll go kind of in the strategy a little bit of this. But tell me about the product, what the kind of the inspiration for this was, or the ideas, where it came from, and then we'll talk about Clore and your product.
Yeah. So the idea started about 5 years ago now. We were looking at wildfires in Canada, and we realized, they have big planes that drop a lot of red stuff onto fires, and those chemicals do work, but they work solid enough at building a break in the middle of the woods, stopping a fire from spreading. So we looked at what chemicals were in there and took the non-toxic aspects of that and a bunch of other non-toxic chemicals that make fires struggle to burn through areas, and basically built a bunch of different samples and sent them off to CAL FIRE testing, found a formulation that worked well, and used that formulation to basically build our company and launch that out as a product that you can spray around properties and it'll stop the property from burning.
Tell me about why you were the one that came up with this. What who was around you, surrounding you? What was your background that allowed you to access that?
I started this company with my partner Barrett, and we spent like 6 to 10 months just testing out different formulations, doing a lot of research on, what are the aspects of fire that make fires stop burning? What do firefighters currently use? And then looking at all these different chemicals and what's toxic, what's non-toxic. Everything that was toxic was thrown out of the window, even if it was really effective. And that was kind of our motivation was, hey, could we save a home from a fire? If we could save a home from a fire, that's someone's memories, that's someone's childhood, that's someone's entire life. So there was a lot of motivation going into this, and it was just a lot of research. It initially started as an idea. We didn't think we would be able to create something. We talked to a lot of chemistry professors. We did a lot of research on Google, and we did a lot of testing with CAL FIRE. So it was all three of those combined that built the lucky equation that we were able to build a product for.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. So given that, you guys created something out of a concept, and then you had to go through some steps to get from concept to application.
So we started talking to industry professionals, and they kept asking the same questions. Okay, great. You have a product. How do you prove it? How can you show me data that this works? So it started with toxicity testing, because a big aspect of our product was that it was non-toxic. So, we had to do the toxicity testing to back that up. We got that toxicity testing done in Texas at this lab that's done a lot of toxicity studies in the fire industry. Then we did CAL FIRE fire retardant testing. So that's a very specific test with a lab called Intertech. And they did the testing on Douglas fir branches, making sure those don't burn. And then we did trout testing. So, hey, if this product gets in waterways, will it kill fish? That's another valid concern people have. And once we had those three down, then we started really starting to work with, private fire companies such as Steve's.
So, Steve, explain how you came into contact with Sebastien and this whole concept. And so bring me through a little bit of that history, the relationship, and then how you vetted Clore and you started to take a look and say, hey, there's something here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it started with several of our firefighters that are on my team having used different products and liking the Clore product. I also have a client who is an organic farmer, and some of our clients that are up in Napa Valley that are wineries, and they're using the Clore product because of the cleanliness of it, right? And so more and more feedback I started getting from within the industry that this is the product to go to. And so for us, being in talks with the insurance companies, their whole wildfire aspect of it, and I'm going to share why this is important to restoration contractors, right? Because I mean, that's the whole point of why is this important to them, is the insurance companies look at it, they don't want a house to burn down. They don't want a structure to burn down. And the best thing is having that defensible space, right? The clearing between the house and the property. Well, you can trim the grass, cut the trees down, but it still acts as a carpet. And a real nice fire break, many times is coming through with a bulldozer. Well, aside from a bulldozer, by putting the Clore product down, you're creating that defensible fire break. For us, when I deploy my firefighters, that also keeps the heat off them because the thermodynamics will melt the plastics, will blow windows. It'll catch things on fire just from the heat alone. So the product works extremely well, and it's just a good fire buffer.
So you're going through this process of learning and figuring out how the application works and how your company utilizes this. So go through kind of that discussion of what you were learning and thinking during this process.
Yeah. So a lot of the clients that are in the high net worth area that are under Chubb, Pure, some of these AIG, Cincinnati, Vault Insurance are using restoration contractors. And there's several out there like Direct, State, American Restoration, Allied Fire Defense, right? They're using this Clore product to treat around these properties. They go out there, they get them on a subscription basis, and they're out there every single year.
Okay. So tell me how your company's using this and what you're doing and how you're bringing this to clients and what your process is, and then tell me about some of your experience here with the recent fires that we had.
Yeah, so I'm just simply referring to restoration contractors that are using the Clore product, right, to go out there and treat our clients' properties once a year. Some of the clients are also buying the product to have it on site. So in case there's a wildfire, we can actually do a quick pre-treatment of that area to create that buffer zone for my firefighters. And the stuff stays consistent. If there's 3-4 inches of rain, then you have to reapply it. But we have very, sunny weather in California that it happens very rarely. But the other part of it is allows that contractor, that restoration contractor, to be in constant contact with that client. So if they have water damage, other types of losses, they're still the restoration contractor to go to. If there's a wildfire there's an outbreak and there's time, the restoration contractor can go out there, move the furniture inside, put an air scrubber, one per every 1,000 square feet, tape all the openings, leave the premises. SRP with our private firefighters, we show up, we apply another layer of the pre-treatment. If we don't get to it, it's okay because the pre-treatment's already been applied by the restoration contractor. And then we use a commercial self-cooling fire pump that's patented, and that system sits on the property like a large barbecue with the hoses, nozzles, everything we need to be able to fight that fire and protect that structure. And then our team stays on that property until the fire burns around it. For the insurance carrier, it's a massive risk reduction. They're not having to pay millions of dollars in a total loss of the structure, contents, and ALE. But furthermore, saving the structure, they don't have to also pay for all the combustion byproduct, the soot, the ash, all the particulate matter, all the toxic ash that blows in the property, because the restoration contractor came out and prevented it from being highly exposed to all these toxins. Now, we still recommend a CIH go in there, sample it, and see what levels are there. And the remediation now may be reduced to simply cleaning in place, not having to dispose of all the soft goods, and being able to prevent that loss of use that could be substantial for these clients and save the insurance companies millions of dollars. And so that's why it became a huge interest to the carrier, to where they're referring now those restoration contractors that are using the pre-treatment and that are going in, the roof is resistant, vents in, class A roofs on, create defensible space, maybe even putting a perimeter sprinkler around the exterior of the property, and then signing with SRP Private Fire. So it's a 360 approach, like looking at like, what have we learned and how do we stop this from happening?
So how much of your service is the Clore treatment? And then you also said you bring pumps and you're there protecting the property. So does this work as a standalone product? I'm just going to apply my Clore. I'm going to do it before fire season starts, before the rains or after the rains. And so how much of this is going to work just as I got a Clore product that's working and I need the fire suppression and firefighting service on the other side of it?
Yeah, so the Clore product is the first step, right? That is one of the best steps a person can take. It's just putting the pre-treatment down and reducing the amount of fire that can actually burn in that area and treating anything that's an ignition point. There's no guarantee. You can put a Class A roof, you could put ember-resistant vents on, and you could create the defensible space. Now you have 80-mile-an-hour winds blowing embers, trees, palm fronds up against your house, and it catches on the weave screed or catches a mat or catches something on fire, and there goes your whole house. The private fire is the element that's the plus one. At the end of the day, I'm old school. And we've learned this since the 2003 fires in San Diego. You put the wet stuff on the red stuff, boots of firemen on the ground protecting a structure. That is going to give you your best last line of defense. But it doesn't say don't do the rest of the stuff. The rest of the stuff also helps, right? I don't want to be dealing with an attic fire because they didn't put ember-resistant vents on and no one's able to get up there and seal the vents on the roof. Those are all stuff you do ahead of time. It's like hurricane-proof windows, right? Why go and board it up? You may not get that out there to put hurricane shutters up or board it up. These are all things that we have to live with in California.
Sure. Well, California and probably Utah, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, all up through British Columbia and into Alberta. And it was crazy. I saw fires back down it was in Georgia this year. There was some big fires back in Georgia. It was this spring. We were there for the RIA, and they were just talking about the wildfires because they were in a drought down there. So it seems to be like there's more opportunities for this than where we would normally think or look, just based on the fact that we're building in the middle of forests, or who wants to be in the town? You can go out and you have pine trees or fir trees in your backyard and clean water and all that until it turns black. Sebastien, I'll bring you in. Tell me a little bit about the product and some of the testing you've done on it. The one thing that does make me feel safe is that you're doing this in California right now, and so if you passed whatever standards we have there, it shouldn't be a problem anywhere else. Maybe Canada has different rules and laws, but California definitely sets precedence on a lot of that.
So to start off, in Canada, we passed the Health Canada requirements. Canada has very strict rules on getting chemicals in there. But on top of that, all of our chemicals are allowed in the state of California. They're not these hazardous, cancer-causing chemicals. They're very standard kitchen and household chemicals. But on top of that, we've done toxicity testing, which puts us in the highest EPA category, which high is in good, lowest amount of toxicity. It's the same category that milk and lemonade is in. And that's for toxicity on humans. But when it comes to aquatic life, so you're spraying into the ground, it's getting into the ground, it's you would need to pump in several gallons into a small lake, a small pond, for it to have a negative effect on the fish. And you're only having that negative effect because there's salts in the product. And that's what we've seen from studies is the product's effect, toxicity and, spraying it and things like that is very, very, very minimal, especially compared to the concerns of a fire and, what happens when a fire comes through my property and wipes everything out, melts that plastic tube I have in my backyard. That's a real concern.
Make a business case for this and talk to me about how this works out in the real numbers and the reality of your restoration services and business and your fire protection and how that fits in there?
Well, I think for the contractors, it's a huge plus one, right? The contractors go get the Clore product. I have vendors that need the Clore product applied, the fire retardant applied. I refer them. They now have a residual business that comes on a yearly basis. They're in direct contact with the private client group, which is what they want, right? The Chubbs, the Pure, the big, the tier one carriers. There's good margins in the work that's being done for being applied and pre-treating this thing yearly. And they don't have to buy the product from me. I'm not a Clore rep. I'm just the disaster management company that has a strike team, right? And multiple strikes team throughout the Western states. They can go directly to Clore. There's a contractor portal. They can buy the product. They can call Sebastien. They can place their order. They can bill the client. He can show them the rate sheet, the standard rate sheet. They can explain to their insurance broker for that client to get credits and reductions in their premium. So these are huge benefits that as part of the 360 program, they're able to substantially save money with their insurance carrier and in many cases come off of California Fair Plan and get on with these tier one carriers, which is huge for people who have a $20 million home, but California Fair Plan only offers them $3 million, but doesn't cover anything for cleaning, restoration, testing. So that doesn't help the restoration contractor either. And the other plus one is they're able to deliver air scrubbers pre the fire coming in when the smoke's in the air, when the smoke's rising, right? So they're getting paid on that part of it. The air scrubber's sitting there for a few weeks that are spread out through this entire property. And then they're already got their foot in the door on the restoration side of it when the evacuation orders are lifted. So the restoration contractors that are in these Western states got ahead of it, and that's how they're going after it, but they're not talking much about it. So it's big on you to go, wait a minute, there's something here that I'm noticing that's traveling. It's the undercurrent, right? That eventually people are going to catch on. And, other contractors in the restoration are looking for other revenue streams. And this is a huge come up for them.
So first of all, have you tried this in commercial applications as well as residential?
Yeah, well, there's one in Northern California, which is a Superfund site that AIG brought us into, and that is a lot of critical facilities of what they're doing on this mountain range area, and they can't get firefighters into that area. It's too difficult when a fire breaks out. It's a very remote area, so they're looking at applying the Clore treatment throughout this entire region. Then there's another commercial industrial area that's in San Bernardino. And so that area, there's no water source. So they can't get water tenders in there. They don't have a pool that they can draft from. And we all know municipal water, when you're trying some of these hydrants during the LA fires, dried up. There was just no water in the hydrant. Kind of what happened in Maui. When you start drafting all of that water, the system infrastructure doesn't have that in place. So they're looking at the pre-treatment around those facilities to really create that buffer zone, that fire break, because the facility is a logistics center. They can't afford for it to go down. And they know that local fire departments are majorly stretched, and they go into the evacuation mode, not structure protection mode, that they don't have enough engines, fire trucks, and water, because a typical fire engine has only 500 gallons of water. They have to tap to a hydrant. Typical resort properties and homes, they have a 30,000 gallon pool that I could draft from for days.
Have you ever had anybody ask you, okay, you sprayed it on there, like, okay, now the risk is gone, I don't want this stuff around anymore? Has that ever come up?
No, that's not something we've seen. We really honed in on this non-toxicity. If you spray it on metals, so sometimes during fires, people will rush to spray the entire property and not be as diligent on what am I spraying, because you're on a time crunch. There's a fire. A fire is not going to wait and be like, I'll give you a couple minutes, I'll come back in 10 minutes. It's a fire. So sometimes right after they spray and rush there, at times they have to look at, this window or this metal fence that we sprayed. Let's just wipe it down, because after a long period of time, some of the metal fences, there's a little bit of staining. But about the vegetation, all those things, there's no value in it. I mean, it's biodegradable. It's going to wash away when it rains. You might as well get a little bit more protection out of it for the rest of fire season.
So I'm going to apply this, and maybe I've got a commercial building and I've now got 20,000 square foot lot or something bigger that I'm going to go apply it around. Or I've got a large house and it's a 10,000 square foot 3-story house. And how am I physically putting this in? Is it a pump sprayer? Am I doing a broadcast application? What does it look like?
If I gave you a big jug of water and said spray this around your property, any of those methods could work. So you could use a backpack sprayer, 5-gallon sprayer. You're gonna have to fill it up a couple times, but you'd hit all your bushes. You can use a hose, pump into the gallon and just spray around your property. You can use a high pressure system to really frack the chemical much better.
Uh-huh.
All of them work. And it washes out of a system super easily also, so it's not going to leave anything behind in the system.
What are they going to invest in time and in resources, and how many people they need out there? They're going to go do a neighborhood, they're going to do a house. What is the logistics of it for a user?
So for an individual user, we give these kits that are 3 5-gallon jugs and a backpack sprayer. And at the beginning of fire season, you put it in the sprayer and you're walking around your bushes, you're walking around, where the embers could land, because the ember itself the ember starts the fire, but the ember is not the fire. It lands in something and heats it up and catches that material on fire. If that material won't catch, you can land 100,000 embers on a house, it doesn't matter. So a concern is it gets in the vents. We sadly can't help with vents, but that's something what SRP is. They'll cover up your vents right before a fire. But you're talking about all that, vegetation within 5 feet of your house, the mulch people have, those trees. It's going to land in there and it's not going to be able to really catch the bush on fire because there's going to be nowhere for it to get a grip.
You may have to answer this, Steve, but so if I'm applying an antimicrobial and I've got you have to have dilution and contact in order to be effective. Is it the same way with Clore? Do I need to have dilution and contact? If I'm spraying it, everybody who applies an antimicrobial does it different. Some people do it right and most people do it wrong. So how does that work here? Because the consequences are quite substantial.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar along those lines, right? The difference is when you're applying an antimicrobial to, a static structure, there's no wind associated with it, right? So you could pre-treat an entire area with Clore, the winds come through that can overturn those areas and it'll find a place to ignite, right? So it's a reduction in the exposure. It doesn't mean that even if you got on top of the roof and you treated a tile roof, right? It finds one area between a bird stop or between an air that ember gets in there, it could light it up, right? So yes, it's a huge benefit. The other part of it is for the restoration contractor, he's the first call, right? Hey, the fire just broke out. It's 5 miles out. And that restoration contractor goes, great, I'll be up there within 35, 40 minutes. These fires don't move sometimes that fast directly to that area. So early, they'll go up there, pre-treat the area. But if it was already pre-treated, they're still going to call that restoration contractor. And the contractor's going to say, hey, we had no rains. I just pre-treated it 3 months ago. Thank you for calling. But what I will do is I'll drop off some air scrubbers and seal all your openings. They're now as the first responder. On their vehicles, they have a fire emblem, certified flame retardant, fire retardant pre-treatment contractor, right? For Clore. Now, that right there, you're offering an added service. What happens when the fire goes by? You've already had your air scrubbers running, right? You go pick them up, nothing to do there. Great. You made some money. You have something to do there. Now you're doing the remediation and you're not chasing a bunch of contractors on the street. And you don't want to be that guy. So it's literally helping the client reduce the exposure to fire, helping them save money on their premiums, and being tied in with these tier 1 carriers, to be bringing a risk reduction value to them.
Can you give me some real world success stories on some things that might have happened and how this worked out? Maybe from the Palisades, which is fresh on a lot of people's minds, or any other big fire events and properties you've treated and success stories.
During the Palisades fire and last year, actually, as a whole, 18 homes that were sprayed with our product encountered either direct evacuation orders or, were within the area of an ember cast or within the front of a fire, and all 18 did survive. We did do that in conjunction mostly with private fire companies. So, we were a tool in the arsenal. So we were used in a bunch of homes on the Palisades fire, 13, I believe, and all of those were able to survive. And, we were able to build barriers in that brush where that brush, embers landing, that brush did not start fires, did not continue to spread to the house. Those were our success stories.
So there's a big risk reduction in exposure, heat, life safety. And so as private fire and putting these credentialed firefighters on these properties, it also is helping us in the firefight, right? So could Clore stand alone and save a home? Yeah, very possible. Could it be that the person had ember guards on? Possible, right? The Class A roof, they didn't have a wood shake roof or a shingle roof or something that, that had an ignition point. Possible. We've had situations where doors blew open, a window broke just from the heat. Another one where the drapes inside caught on fire without the window breaking just from the heat. So there's a lot of dynamics in wildfire, and there's some great studies that show just by using this pre-treatment fire retardant. And we've done some live fire drills, like with San Diego Fire, doing burns, half a container with stuff that's combustible, treated, half of it not. The other half that's treated, the treated part's not burning. The stuff that's not treated is burning, going up like a wildfire.
During the Palisades fire, we saw a lot of situations where homes right next door did burn down.
Okay.
And that's kind of the examples, because, you had homes who did do the fire retardant, obviously took other steps, but also had fire retardant, sprayed fire retardant around their yard. And, they look kind of like the odd one out, because they did the odd one out in preparation. And now they're the odd one out after a fire.
So Stephen mentioned something in his conversation. He had talked about licensed applicators. Do you have a license for your application, or is there some sort of a certification process that you recommend, require, suggest?
There is no license that we hand applicators, but we do have conversations with them before we bring them on as an applicator, and then we have a list of them internally. And these are people that we trust and are, believe are going to do a good job representing our brand, and not, buy some Clore and spray water on half the houses, a little bit of Clore on the other. These are people that we've vetted to a degree and believe are going to bring the brand forward in a positive manner.
So Steve, when you go out and you approach a neighborhood and you're targeting, you're going to go do door hangers or whatever you're going to do, or word of mouth referrals. Do you find other people that are doing this similar thing? They're using similar products, or what's the competition look like in prevention services?
Yeah, I mean, there's other products that are out there. I just found that cleanliness, right? You have just a few products that really kind of rank up there. The pink stuff, the Phos-Check stuff, the Barricade, those things have more like heavy metals, toxic stuff. The levels are not clean. And so for a lot of the clients that we service, I don't want to be the one getting called up saying, hey, my dog died or developed cancer. And, I have a close relationship with HHS Secretary Bobby Kennedy, which I shared, and we were on his house during the Palisades fire. We're burned up to the fence line. And again, he has an organic garden, and we have clients who are in the organic farming side of it. And so they're looking at the cleanest product. Some of the people that got sprayed with Phos-Check from the airplane went back in, had to take their entire gardens out, cut about 2 feet of soil, topsoil, and bring in all new organic soil because they know what's in it.
Yep.
And this stuff has been sprayed over firefighters. It's getting into the water streams. It's over the wildlife. It's over organic produce. And I personally don't feel it should be allowed, but that's a different topic for a different day and a different platform. The bottom line is this. Restoration contractors have an ability to connect with these clients and provide them a service. Choose in, choose out, they're a choice, right? This is an educational platform. If they are working with a private client who's having a difficult time getting insurance, we can help there. We can put a whole 360 plan together. If their broker can't get them that discount, I can bring them to a broker that ties that contractor into doing the restoration work for anything and everything that happens with that client. So they're coming there as a solutions-based restorer, right? Let me bring you solutions. And at the end of the day, 98% of our stuff is word of mouth. It's coming from referrals directly from the carrier because they've seen our past performance in the homes that we've saved that they insure. And then from the private client network that when their house didn't burn and the neighbor goes, hey, my house burned down. Who was that private firefighter team you had that didn't leave? Those guys are nuts, but man, I wish I would have known them before. That's always the conversation. I wish I would have known them before. But it's funny because even when we introduce ourselves, they're like, I don't know. I don't think it'll ever happen. And it's funny because I've had clients that their properties have burned down and they're calling me with the fire coming down the hillside towards their property. And they're like, remember me? And I'm like, yeah, I remember you. We've been talking for 2 years. Now you want us to deliver pumps and drop firefighters right at the fire line? Yeah, that's not happening.
So I'm assuming a lot of the neighborhoods you're in, they're evacuating. And how are you able to stay longer? Are you able to get in behind not fire lines, but the security lines and all that? What's that process? That's a relationship with the fire department, or how does that work?
That's a great question. Absolutely. All our firefighters are 15 plus years credentialed firefighters, right? Many are retired, some are active, some are seasonal. So they have their credentials on them and they're going to a very specific site to provide structure protection. They're not tapping the hydrants. Our rigs are not parked on the streets. We're pulling them into the yard and they know what clients are there. We also announce ourselves to CAL FIRE and wherever incident command is that we have a team of 8, right? A team of 4. They'll come up and they'll walk through there and they'll see our setup and they'll be like, oh, these guys are squared away. Great. It's a welcome addition to them, right? Versus somebody who's pulling people off the streets, who doesn't know what they're doing, or a homeowner that's trying to stay back and defend the thing. And they're like, oh, I'm going to stay there. And then when it gets too gnarly and they're like, oh, it sounds like 100 freight trains coming at me. I can't see my hand in front of my face. I'm out for 30 seconds. I'm about to die from smoke inhalation, right? And then they're like, oh, I got to get out of here. And they go, oh, shit, the whole place is surrounded by fire because it's spotting a mile to 2 miles out.
Yep.
So those that have not been through it, that have not been in a firestorm, have no idea. It took me 6 months of weekly nebulizing glutathione to cough the shit out of my lungs. But I know what I signed up for, right?
Yep.
And that's just where we're at.
So I'm going to pull this back a little bit because I think that's almost a different level of service, and that's an option or an opportunity for restorers to think about. So Sebastien, I want to talk to you a little bit. Tell me about the product. Is this applied? Is it diluted, or are we putting this on full strength? And if we put it on full strength, I imagine we need to have 20-gallon buckets of this stuff that we're hauling around. So tell me about the application and dilution.
So we deliver the product in 5-gallon buckets, 55-gallon buckets, and 275-gallon totes. So that's whatever the homeowner might need the applicator to bring. So, you're probably not usually needing to bring more than 55 gallons. It comes at a 1-to-1 concentrate ratio. So I'll give you 5 gallons of product. You mix that with 5 gallons of water, make 10 gallons of product to spray on homes. So it's not a high concentration level at all.
Okay.
But it's definitely, it cuts in half on the amount of water you need to carry. So, you can fill up a tank and spray 5-10 homes with the full tank of product.
Okay, so if I've got a single house, and let's just say this is where we're up and, we're not going to apply the entire property. We're going to apply around a house. People who live up there in these expensive homes, it might be a 10,000 square foot house. So you now have to apply an area that's probably equivalent of 20,000 square feet, maybe less. How much am I going to get covered out of a 5-gallon product that I have?
A 5-gallon jug of concentrate will make 10 gallons, which will cover 2,000 square feet.
So, is this product going to cost me $10,000 for that gallon, or what's the financial part of this?
For our industrial partners, a 5-gallon jug of concentrate is usually about $200 as a ballpark number. And, for an average home, you might need 2 of those. For bigger homes, you might need 5 to 10 of those. So the average home will spend anywhere from $1,500 to $2,700 upwards for a spray. So there is margin in there for the applicators.
Typically, like if they're applying the Clore product, they're putting the application down at like $1 a square foot. That's the going rate. It's costing them to apply it down anywhere from 10 to 15 cents a square foot. So the margins are good. You know what I mean? Because there's not a lot of competition out there. And at the end of the day, the client is doing everything they can to protect their home in a wildfire because many of them travel. They may have 5-6 homes. But yes, there's There's, ember screen. So a lot of the roofers, what I'm finding is they're really selling the ember resistant screens simply for the fact that that's the lead in. Just like Clore, the pre-treatment's the lead in. The ember screens for the roofers, the lead in. Then they're up there and they're like, hey, by the way, you have a 15, 20-year-old roof. How about I give you a bid to replace your whole roof? The client's like, well, while you're already tearing the vents out or replacing the screens, yeah, go ahead and do the roof. It's time I get it done anyway. So that's a lead in. It's like the hook, right? But it keeps them in front of the client on a subscription base where that vendor sees that high net worth client every year as part of an insurance program. So now they're in with the agent, they're in with the broker, they're in with the carrier directly. They get on the Chubb preferred program, and now they're getting the water losses, the fire losses, the daily stuff that may be happening at that client. They're not getting an insurance carrier like Fairplan that's not covering the water damage or the smoke damage. And they're really helping their client get better coverage that gives them to be able to bill properly for proper restoration work should it arise.
We've kind of been pretty thorough through a lot of these discussions on the product and the process and the services. Is there things that maybe questions I didn't ask or things that would be of interest to somebody who's watching this?
I'm always an open book, Philip. I'm there to show them the path, teach them, give them, it's unfiltered, right? I'm just going to share, here's what you do. Here's where your margins are. Here's where the advantage is. And I'll share with the other restorers that are in our network that what they're doing, right? Because at the end of the day, we're just getting a lot more demand for more and more restorers so that those referrals are starting to go out rapidly, right? So that puts them in front of a client like many A-listers and many ultra-rich CEOs that they want to be doing work for anyone.
Steve, I think what you're doing is fantastic, Sebastien. I love the product. I love the idea. It's solving a new problem in the industry. Back a long time ago, it wasn't such a big deal. We weren't building as much as we are in the forest. We had better fire suppression. We had lots of different things that have sort of changed and evolved. And so this is you brought solutions to a new problem. And then Steve, I love the service part of it. So what we did is we took something, we can be profitable on application for product, but we can be really profitable if we get the cleaning afterwards. We bring a set equipment in on a job site and we're running an air mover, or at least written an air mover and saying, hey, wouldn't it be nice to have this in the house when that fire comes at you? And so, there's so many great opportunities built within this. And I think that's fantastic. So doesn't have to be a restorer who's looking at this. I mean, it could be a pest control company. It's like, hey, we're used to applying product. We're in these houses already. So there's lots of different opportunities for this to be a new solution, new revenue stream, new opportunity for restoration businesses or service companies. So if people want more information, where are they going to go? And if you have any offer or discounts that people who are watching this session can access, let us know all of those things right here.
So go to our website. It's going to be CLORE and then FR.com. So it's clorefr.com. And reach out to us. Tell us you saw us from the session. And we'd love to have a conversation more depth about that.
And on our part, it's srp24.com/private fire. And what I wanted to share with you is if anybody wants to reach me, they can reach me at steve@srp24.com. But Philip, you as a consultant clearly see, that's why when you looked at this, you're like, wait a minute, I can talk to my network. I can create this program, tailor it, and that can substantially increase a whole nother revenue stream because it's a competitive world. Things are tight, things are slow. And this is a differentiating factor that you have a different conversation. Not, oh, call me once a pipe breaks. No. I'm going to set up a sensor for if your basement floods. I'm going to put a smoke detector in, and I'm going to be your first responder to prevent the loss from ever happening.
And the homeowners on a lot of this stuff are going to go get discounts on their policies, which is becoming more and more expensive. And so for a homeowner, for an insurance broker, these things are great things to offer. And this is where a creative marketing person for any restoration company comes in, and they start talking about, hey, we can do something really cool with this. And there's where you start becoming different than anyone else there. You got whatever, when you leave an agent or broker's office, you're one of about 20 that are going to stop there in that week, and there might even be more. And so you might have a different story than all other 20 of those. And so I think that those are the real opportunities. So Steve, your website one more time, and then your service that you're offering, are you telling people how to do what you're doing? You're just saying, hey, if they call me, I will talk them through what we've done? Or is there something additional that they're looking for from you?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, if they become an applicator and they put the program together and they know how they're doing it, and they're like, hey, Steve, I purchased a product, I got trained on it, I know what I'm doing, then I'll refer them to business. I don't
Okay.
need a referral there.
Yeah.
I'm already getting the business from the clients. I mean,
Okay.
I have a very extensive roster of firefighters that are on our team that are dedicated per the designated properties.
Yep.
And I'm constantly onboarding because just there's demands there. But I don't really have a discount. I'm there to help them because they're helping me, right?
Okay.
Fill the need for my clientele.
And so your contact information, I'm going to ask both of you to do this one more time. We'll put it on the presentation, but your contact information again is
Sebastien Burkhardt. So my first name, my last name at clorefr.com. And then clorefr.com is CLOREFR.com.
perfect. Steve?
Yeah, Steve at srp24.com. And then the website landing page is srp24/private fire.
Thank you for joining me today. This is really cool. I love the idea. I love what you guys are doing. Congratulations and best of luck to you. I look forward to lots of restorers learning about this and utilizing this as a service in their business. Thank you very much and appreciate your time.